Is China's economy truly invincible, or are there underlying vulnerabilities that could disrupt its growth? For decades, the world has marveled at China's meteoric rise. From a struggling agrarian society, it's transformed into a global powerhouse, boasting the second-largest economy on the planet. The sheer scale of its growth and the impressive numbers it's posted year after year have painted a picture of an economic juggernaut, seemingly impervious to the ebb and flow that characterizes global markets. However, beneath this dazzling veneer, there's a complex narrative that often escapes the headlines. Like any other economy, China's is not devoid of its own share of challenges. Hidden vulnerabilities lurk in the shadows, waiting to pounce at the slightest misstep. And these vulnerabilities could potentially disrupt the growth trajectory of this economic titan. But what if the China growth story isn't as bulletproof as it seems? Imagine carrying a weight that's continuously getting heavier. That's what China's debt situation looks like. China's economy, the second largest in the world, is grappling with an ever-growing debt burden. This debt is like a colossal weight, straining the nation's economic muscles. It's a weight that's been growing consistently, year after year, and shows no signs of slowing down. The numbers are staggering. China's total debt has ballooned to more than 3 times the size of its GDP. That's like saying for every dollar the economy produces, there's $3 of debt. This is a precarious situation, one that could potentially hinder the country's future growth. But what does this mean for the economy? Well, high levels of debt can lead to a host of problems. It can stifle economic growth, making it harder for the country to pay off its obligations. It can lead to inflation, eroding the value of money. And it can create a vicious cycle where the country has to borrow more just to service its existing debt. This debt burden doesn't just affect China, it has implications for investors, both domestic and foreign. For domestic investors, the debt situation can create uncertainty, making it harder to plan for the future. For foreign investors, the high levels of debt can make China a riskier place to invest, potentially leading to capital outflows. Moreover, if China were to default on its debt, the consequences would be felt worldwide. The global economy is interconnected like a vast web, and a major disruption in one part can cause ripples throughout the entire system. So it's crucial for China to manage this debt burden effectively. It needs to balance its desire for growth with the need for fiscal responsibility. It needs to find ways to stimulate its economy without piling on more debt. And it needs to reassure investors both at home and abroad that it's taking steps to address this issue. In conclusion, China's debt is a matter of grave concern. It's a weight that's getting heavier with each passing day, and it's a weight that the country and indeed the world can ill afford to carry. So the mounting debt is a ticking time bomb for China's economy. What happens when the workforce that powers an economy starts to age rapidly? Imagine a fleet of cars, all shining and new, zooming down the highway. Now imagine those same cars decades later, still on the road, but slower, less efficient, requiring more maintenance. This, in essence, is the challenge that China is facing with its rapidly aging population. China, the world's most populous country, is getting older. And this isn't just a social issue, it's a major economic one. The issue at hand is a demographic time bomb ticking away, an issue that has been brewing for decades, ever since the one-child policy was introduced in the late 70s. This policy, while successful in curbing population growth, has had an unintended consequence. It has led to a situation where the number of young, working-age people is declining, while the number of elderly citizens continues to rise. This demographic shift is causing a decline in the workforce numbers, the very engine that powers China's economic growth. Now, why does this matter for the economy? Well, an economy is like a machine. It needs fuel to keep running. In this case, the fuel is the labor force. When the labor force starts to shrink, it means there are fewer people to drive economic growth. Fewer workers mean less production, less consumption, and ultimately less economic activity. Furthermore, an aging population means more resources are needed for healthcare and pensions, putting additional strain on public finances. And this can significantly affect the investment prospects. Investors, domestic and foreign, may be wary of committing their capital in an economy facing such demographic challenges. This is not to say that China's economy is doomed, but it is to say that this demographic hurdle is a significant one. It's a challenge that needs to be addressed. for the sake of China's future economic growth and stability. An aging population thus presents a significant roadblock to China's economic engine. Is the cost of China's rapid industrial growth a compromised environment? Picture this: a nation racing ahead, its factories belching out goods and its economy expanding at a pace that leaves the world in awe. But there's a flip side to this coin. The environmental cost of this rapid industrial growth can be enormous. As China charges on, it grapples with environmental concerns that could pose a significant challenge to its economic prosperity. China's industrial policies have led to a surge in pollution levels. Air and water pollution have become significant problems affecting not only the health of the population but also the quality of life. And as we know, a healthy workforce is a cornerstone for any thriving economy. The degradation of the environment can lead to increased healthcare costs and a decrease in worker productivity, which can impact the overall economic growth. Moreover, these environmental issues can deter both domestic and foreign investment. Investors are increasingly conscious of environmental, social, and governance factors when deciding where to place their money. A polluted environment can be a turn-off for investors, potentially leading to a slowdown in economic growth. In addition, the government's expenditure to combat these environmental challenges can also strain the economy. Efforts to clean up the environment and implement sustainable practices are not cheap. They require significant investment and can divert resources from other areas of the economy. Not to mention, the international community is watching. With global climate change at the forefront of international discourse, countries with high pollution levels could face sanctions or trade restrictions, further impacting the economy. In conclusion, it's clear that the environmental concerns arising from China's industrial policies are not just a threat to the physical landscape, but also to the economic landscape. The environmental bill for China's growth could be a hefty one. What if the key to your house also opens a Pandora's box of problems? Let's look at trade tensions, the fourth struggle for China's economy. These tensions, particularly with the United States, have turned into a high-stakes chess game, with each move impacting the global economy. For China, it's a game with significant implications. The tariffs imposed by other nations are causing a strain on China's export-driven economy, and this strain is felt by both domestic and foreign investors. The uncertainty surrounding these tensions hampers business planning and investment decisions. Investors are left wondering, what's the next move? How will it affect my investments? Moreover, these tensions can affect the consumer market, potentially leading to a decrease in purchasing power for the Chinese population. This, in turn, could further slow down economic growth. In this globalized world, no economy is an island. Every action reverberates across oceans, with implications felt worldwide. Trade tensions, hence, continue to cast a long shadow over China's economic future. So, is China's economy a titan with feet of clay? We've just taken a deep dive into 4 pressing issues that suggest it might be. We've seen the looming shadow of a crippling debt burden, a ticking time bomb that threatens to destabilize the nation's financial pillars. We've explored the implications of an aging population, a demographic shift that could strain resources and slow productivity. We've looked into the environmental concerns, a challenge that's not just about the planet's health, but also about the sustainability of economic growth. And lastly, we've touched upon the simmering trade tensions, a diplomatic chess game that could have far-reaching economic consequences. Each of these issues in its own way presents a significant hurdle to China's economic growth. They paint a picture of a giant wrestling with complex problems, a narrative that is far from the image of an invincible dragon. Investors, both Chinese and foreign, should tread with caution, for the dragon might not be as invincible as it seems.